I never remember.
But when I was little, I had just moved to the high desert, and my mom handmade me a Princess Fiona dress. I know. Don't cry, because I'm gonna cry. I know.
Oh my God,
I know.
So bad. Can I request Death by Snoo Snoo?
Death by
Like a phoenix rising through the ashes, the baby came back to life.
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome
I'm Melissa.
back.
Damn it. Hold on. Let's restart that.
Wait, we have to restart. Ooh, hello.
Happy Halloween.
Welcome to a spooky episode of
Yes.
Click and Flick. Dun, dun, dun. Lightning.
Thunder. Yes.
This is the podcast where we talk about movies and video games and we rate them based off of our own opinions and nothing else.
Strictly. And I'm ready for this week's flick because talking about a childhood favorite like this brings me no other greater joy.
Yes, me too. So today we're starting with the flick, and today's flick is Halloweentown.
Yes.
Ooh, spooky.
Scary.
This movie came out in 1998, and was it a Disney Channel original movie?
Oh, it is, yeah.
Okay. I thought this movie was so fun when I was a kid. This was one of my favorite Halloween anything to watch.
Right? And it came on every Halloween. It was there for us.
Yeah,
As
it was
kids.
consistent.
Yes.
So it starts off with Marnie and her siblings on Halloween in their home. Marnie, her brother Dylan, and the littlest baby Sophie. So their mom is super protective and doesn't want them to go out trick-or-treating. They're not allowed to celebrate Halloween, like, at all. Their mom is just totally anti anything to do with Halloween. No witches, no ghouls, no goblins, nothing allowed in the house. Just totally censored, protecting, trying to keep her kids as normal and as far away from that world as possible.
Right.
But Marnie, who's this little rebellious teenager, she just doesn't care about what her mom says. She loves ghosts and skeletons and werewolves and anything spooky. Anything that has to do with Halloween. She's like all about that. And her brother's like, you're weird.
Stop
and
it,
she's
Marnie.
like, I don't care.
Because she's like, what's the point of like ditching Halloween? Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. She's like,
But-
let me express myself. I want to be who I want to be.
Right.
And the mom's
Mom?
like, you are going to be normal whether you like it or not.
Oh, yeah.
But then,
She says that shit.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So the grandma comes to visit them. And apparently it's been like years and years since grandma came to visit. But grandma is Debbie Reynolds. A legend.
Icon. Yes. Oh,
She comes to visit them, and she is absolutely gung-ho for Halloween. She is teaching them all of these, like, fun activities, like eating candy on Halloween, decorating the house. She's putting up skeletons and cloves of garlic.
Yes.
And the kids just are having so much fun. And when it's time for bed, they want her to tell her bedtime stories. So she starts telling them about this place called Halloweentown. And she's telling them how everyone who lives there are real live, like ghouls and goblins and all of this stuff. And they're turning through the pages, and they see a witch flying on a broomstick. And Sophie goes, "Oh, that's Marnie. It looks just like you." Which I kind of want to point out, she kind of looks just like every girl in the 90s. In 1998, she has long brown hair and bangs. So really could have been anybody. But it was really convenient that it was Marnie.
Yes.
So Marnie ends up overhearing the mom and grandma fighting back and forth about how they're really witches, and she actually is from Halloweentown, but something really bad is happening. And the grandma actually came to the real world, the mortal world, to ask the mom to help fight against this evil force that's happening in Halloweentown. She doesn't know what's going on. All she knows is that her neighbors are like turning really dark and evil. I don't know what their faces become like mutated or something. Just like,
yeah, and don't they have like dark eyes and like
they're like, you can't see, like they're just like something evil has taken over inside of them. The bad thing is, I think, what they call it. So then they disappear. And so the grandma's like, all my neighbors are disappearing and I need you to help me figure out what's going on. And the mom's like, I can't leave my kids and help a world that I'm no longer a part of.
Right.
And the grandma's like, the grandma's really upset. She goes, you're like leaving behind who you are and stuff. Obviously, she feels really upset. But the mom kind of wants to stay in the human world, in the mortal world, because she had a bad experience in Halloweentown, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really know why maybe because it's like dangerous. She didn't want her kids to be there, and her husband was a human, so she wanted to raise the kids to be normal. Anyway, so Marnie's overhearing all of this, and she's like, oh my god, I'm a witch. Bye, Mom. I gotta go. But her brother Dylan's like, I'm not gonna let you go alone. I'm going with you to protect you. Because that's, of course, what the brother's gonna do. Yep. And then, of course, the littlest sister is gonna sneak on the bus behind them and not tell anyone. So all three of them end up following Grandma home to Halloweentown.
So cute.
And when they're there, as soon as they get into town square, they meet the mayor, who automatically gives you a bad feeling. He looks so ugly. Number one, he's just gross looking. Like
but for the time, he was like cunning.
He's supposed to look all like, ooh, like suave, I guess, but definitely, he looks like a toe to me.
Same.
Same. And he looks like he smells like blue cheese dressing.
Good description. Yeah.
But he like automatically goes up to the kids and starts talking to them. And he like pulls out a lollipop out of his ear and gives it to the youngest one. And she's all, no, thank you. I was like, that's good. That would be so gross if like she ate that, because I was literally in his ear. It's gross.
Yeah.
But he's immediately creepy, like bad vibes, but he gets them on the cab and takes them to Grandma's house. So Grandma basically starts taking them around Halloweentown and showing them around once they're all reunited and stuff. And they run into this kid who's like the bully. He's supposedly had made a deal with the bad guy to get his face turned to handsome.
Oh yeah.
They like gave him a nose. They like gave him a nose job. They made his nose all small, and so it made him handsome, I guess. And in return for that, he was helping him like capture people, basically. So he starts like harassing them around town, basically, And that's how we meet this character, and everyone around town is basically like a jerk to him too. Like, right back. Everyone's like, oh, you're a wiener. Which kind of makes me feel like if anyone had actually been nice to this boy, he probably wouldn't have like
turned to
continue to
sell
like
his
be
soul.
evil and be an asshole, right? Like,
honestly, yeah.
I just didn't understand why all of the adults in town treated him so shitty. That made me feel so bad for him. I'm like, he's a kid, and these adults are literally like, ugh, go away, Luke. Like, you're such a wiener. That's what they called him.
You're a wiener, Luke.
So then Luke ends up seeing them at like the broom shop. Marnie's gonna get a broom, her first broom. Oh, that's the other thing, that because Marnie's a witch, she has to start her training now. It's her 13th Halloween. So it's like the last day for her to start her training, or else she'll lose her powers forever. That's why she decided to run away from home.
That's right.
And go to Halloweentown so that she would have more time to train. At home, though, it's nighttime, so it's like her powers would be almost up. But then when they travel to Halloweentown on the bus, it's daytime the whole time. So it must be...
Yeah,
like East Coast, West Coast thing where they're like... have travel back in time, and then they're actually have more time in the day because it's like daylight. So the way the time zones work, they actually have more time for her to do her training and stuff. But it gets interrupted because when they're at the broom shop, the mom finds them and tries to take all the kids back with her. Mm-hmm. But the buses aren't running anymore, so they're now stuck in Halloweentown. The grandma, though, is now walking back home by herself because the mom took the kids back to the bus stop. And while she's walking alone, Luke goes up to her and is like, okay, you have Merlin's talisman, and the bad guy wants it, so if you bring it to the movie theater, you won't be hurt. Everything, like, just, what's the word?
Blackmail.
Yeah, it was threatening. He was like, just, like, give it up. Just surrender, and everything will be fine. She goes and sees everyone there in this movie theater, like, frozen. Everyone from town who's gone missing.
That's right.
And she realizes that he's, like, holding them there hostage until he can say the word and wake them all up to control them to try and go take over the mortal world. And try to kill everybody there. Because he's upset that they were, like, banished to Halloweentown or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, but while he's there trying to zap the grandma, the mom and the kids come in. The mom pushes grandma out of the way. Mom gets zapped. Then he ends up zapping both of them. They're frozen. The kids run out and escape and now have to create the spell to get the talisman to work. So now Marnie has the talisman with her brother and sister, and they're going around all of Halloweentown to collect ingredients for this spell. Mm-hmm. And it's like sweat from a ghost, and it's like a vampire's tooth, and then like werewolf hair. So they go for the ghost sweat. They're at like this spa, and there's a ghost in like the sauna, and they turn up the heat really high and get like sweat for him, but then just leave him there in the box.
Yeah.
And he, I mean, luckily he can get out from the inside, but I'm like, oh, ouch. You don't even like turn it back down to warm. That's kind of sad.
Right.
He just kind of like pieced out. The werewolf hair, they got at like a barber shop. They pretended to, they were like, she was distracting him with a hair dryer that was like on fire. And while the brother went and zips up the back of his head. And then he turns around and looks in the mirror and goes, oh, I guess I could pull this off. But I'm like, you don't even see the part that's shaved. How could you make a fair judgment? You know,
good fucking question, yeah.
Hollywood magic,
movie logic.
I guess. Movie logic. And then what was that third thing? Oh, vampire fang they go to a dentist, and it's like this troll.
Right.
And he's like pulling the fang from the vampire, and she's like, oh, that didn't hurt at all. And the dentist goes, that's because I'm the tooth fairy. Just randomly. I'm like, okay, that's the tooth fairy, I guess. I believe it, even though it doesn't look like a fairy.
Right.
But Marnie's there as the little dental assistant. I don't know how she snuck into an operating room and got a little thing, but they got what they needed. Oh, it's because she's a witch, maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe that's why. So they get the spell, they mix it all up, and they go run, and they realize it's not working when they try to use it on the people. Mm-hmm. And they're like, we don't know what to do. And then Marnie remembers, oh, Grandma said that the mortal world Halloween is based off of the traditions from Halloweentown. So we need to put this in the giant pumpkin, this light in the giant pumpkin, because that's how jack-o'-lanterns work in Halloween.
That's right.
So they come to this conclusion, and they run back to town square to try to save everything. And Luke is there. He's like, don't do it. It's a trap. I'm a good guy now. I only did it because he made me handsome, but now I feel bad because being ugly is better than being handsome and evil. And so he comes up with a plan to help distract the bad guy. And he puts up on Marnie's robe and starts running around. And the bad guy's chasing him. And then Marnie's able to make her way to the pumpkin. Even though he ends up seeing her and, like, knocking her out last minute, she makes it. And she still has her arm, like, hanging down. And she's there.
That's
and she drops it. And she's like, you just have to believe. And the talisman does, like, a flippity flop into right into the middle of the pumpkin. And the light, like, shines on everybody, and everyone gets unmelted from time. And we find out that the bad guy is the mayor of Halloweentown, and he did it all because he loved Marnie's mom, and she chose a human over him, and so he wanted to destroy the human world.
Of course. Of course.
This movie ends up with after all the light is saved, they're like, well, Grandma, I guess you can move in with us in the mortal world. And she's all, okay. And that's how it ends.
Oh, wowie zowie.
The end. It's a really simple plot to explain. Probably one of the shortest it ever took me to get through a movie. I'm like, and that's it. It really is only like an hour and 20 minutes long on its own.
Yeah.
And it is kind of simple, right? Just
very much so. Mm-hmm.
It
had to entertain like 5-year-olds, you know?
And that it did.
Yes.
I have to say, there's something that doesn't make me feel good about this story and these kinds of stories that happened in like the 90s and stuff growing up, because a lot of this story is kind of like perpetuating the idea of like grandma knowing best and the mom doesn't. Like, don't listen to the mom, listen to the grandma. The grandma comes in to the house and she can decide how the kids are being raised. The mom doesn't know how to do it.
Right.
I feel like the grandmother should always be respectful of the parents, and the parents are the ones who are deciding how the kids are going to be raised.
Right.
So these kind of stories, even though, like, in this story, the way it's portrayed, the grandma ends up being right, that's manufactured for this story, for that to fit with this plot line, when in real life, most of the time, the parents are the ones who know how they want to raise their kids, and they're going to be the ones who should be,
the final
say, not the grandparents. But I think a lot of times, and this might be unpopular opinion to say, but I think a lot of times grandparents feel like entitlement to step in and do some of the parenting.
Absolutely.
And if they don't like the way something's being done or disagree with it, they try and step in and change it and interfere and change it. And I just find that super disrespectful. And I think that that's just, it was more popular back then, I think, in like 98 for these kind of stories to be like portrayed. Right. I just think like, ultimately, if the mom didn't want them going to Halloweentown, the grandma shouldn't have gone up and like told them the stories of Halloweentown when the mom asked her not to. Like, you can tell them a bedtime story, but don't talk about Halloween. And I'm pretty sure she totally knew what she was going to do. That the whole time she was going to go up and talk about Halloween. Like,
it's funny that you point that out, because I just never had a very influential grandparent. But when you bring it up, I'm like, yeah, actually, growing up, I've seen parents go through that. Yeah. With the grandparent kind of being the head honcho, the say-so, it goes my way or the highway. And like going to grandma's house, it's fine. You won't hear a no from me. Like, don't give my kid 5,000 cookies. Thanks.
Exactly. Like, it's still bad for them to have that much sugar in their body. Just because you're a grandma doesn't mean that their bodies can handle what the sugar is doing to them. Like,
right. Exactly. What would you rate it?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Okay, so I would give this movie, besides that part, besides the grandma thing, because even though in real life that's like, I don't like that, in this movie, the way the story is made, it's the mom is stepping away because she's like cutting off an old part of herself. But I don't know if that's necessarily fair, because then it's also cutting off Marnie and Sophie and Dylan from their ancestors and their history and where they came from. So that's the only argument, because one time Marnie says, you can forget about your roots, but I don't want to forget about mine. Yeah. So that's the only reason why in this movie, in this like story, then grandma, I think, is right to like try to get the kids involved. But I just don't like that that's like such a popular trope, to be like, grandma's gonna come in and know best instead of respecting the parents. You know what I mean? So I wish the mom all the best. But I wish that she, as a character, wasn't so against her kids learning about where they came from, because that was the big deal. So even though I don't agree with it, I do see like why it's like important for this plot line. This one particularly, I think that overall this movie is supposed to be a fun Halloween movie for kids, and everything on TV when you're a kid during Halloween is super scary and super spooky, and even some actual Halloween themed like Disney shows would be like actually really scary. And this one's not. This one is just fun, and it's like kind of scary for a couple scenes. The one when you're in the movie theater and then the one at the very end. But it's like more like intense, and it's not like death, and it's not like demons or whatever.
It apparently doesn't even have a rating. It says not rated.
It's not even rated. So it must have to be like TV, like G or something, whatever it doesn't even have a film rating. So interesting. I would rate it a 6 out of 10 for a movie. Because I think that it being for kids, I think that the target audience is exactly what, like, I think it's a really good movie for 5-year-olds.
Yeah, true.
For kids. I remember being super scared when I was a kid of some of the other Halloween stuff that would come on. Like, there was...
Don't Look Under the Bed.
Don't Look Under the Bed was spooky. Are You Afraid of the Dark was actually spooky. Goosebumps was actually spooky. There was an episode of Boy Meets World. Do you remember the Halloween episode? When they're in high school?
Yes!
And they literally kill Mr. Feeney by putting like a pencil through his head or something.
Yes, that was a terrifying episode. They were locked in the school, right?
Yes! I was terrified. I literally was like, I have to step out and walk away. I cannot watch this episode of Boy Meets World. It is too scary.
It was scary. I hated it.
It was spooky. And these are things that are for kids, you know? So the fact that they had a Halloween show that was with all of the scary monsters, but it was like action-adventure-y more than horror for kids. Right. I think that is a really considerate way to include young kids in spooky season. You know what I mean? Because some kids really can't handle the being scared, but they still love werewolves and Frankenstein and
Halloween.
You know, all the Halloween stuff. So
agreed.
I give it a total of 6 flicks for this movie.
10.
6 out of 10.
I would have to give it a 9 out of 10.
Oh wow.
I didn't give it a full 10 because when I rewatched the movie, like I said not too long ago, I was like, this is cheesy and it's old, but
it's super cheesy.
But it held up when I was a kid. I watched it every single Halloween. And I loved the sequel. I hated the third one. But
Halloweentown High?
Yeah. I watched it, but I hated it. Yeah, it was just like you said, like not a scary movie. It's action based, and it kind of gave a home to Halloween for me. Yeah, because when you're a kid, you're just told you go out trick or treating, and my mom scared me really bad when I was young. I was a witch, and I got really scared going into a house. So Halloween was kind of like a sensitive thing for me for a little while. So Halloweentown kind of turned it into more of like a safe place, like somewhere in my head I can go to on Halloween. So it was really cute.
What is like your favorite costume that you've ever dressed up as on Halloween?
Ooh, you're gonna hate me.
Why? Girl, I've never dressed up. This is my first time.
I've never dressed up. Well, my all-time favorite was Kita. I cosplayed as Kita on Halloween.
Yeah.
But when I was little, I had just moved to the high desert, and my mom handmade me a Princess Fiona dress.
That is so amazing. That's so beautiful. I love that.
My mom handmade it, and it was a labor of love, and it was just her and and we went out trick-or-treating, her and I together. So I didn't have very many Halloween costumes growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Probably money, poor,
Yeah.
And so when she had made it, I was like probably 11 or like 10 or 11. So rad. What about you?
That is amazing. We didn't have like a lot of Halloween costumes either when I was a kid growing up because money. But we had this like trunk of old, like we called it our costume trunk, but it was just like random like pieces of clothing from like when my mom was in high school and stuff. She had like her old cheerleading skirts and like a random big long red tutu. So I think the costume I went with most of the years was Little Red Riding Hood, and I would just take the really long tutu and put the skirt part like over my head like this.
That's
then,
amazing.
Like, be in it.
Yes.
But then one year in high school, I made myself an I Dream of Jeannie costume. I took this long old pink dress and cut it up into the Jeannie like top and pants, and
that's cute.
It was like my last year trick-or-treating because I was like 17, so I'm like, I'll be an adult next year.
Right? Like, anymore. I was a genie too. But that I was pretty young. Yeah, I was like in 2nd grade when I was a genie. That was a sweet outfit. I like that outfit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. If you could be any character from Halloweentown, who would you be?
Oh God. I think I would have to choose Benny. Benny's my favorite.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the cab driver.
But
I like that scene where he comes back to pick them up again, and the little sister is like, the bad things in him. It's like, yeah, kid, trust that intuition. Always trust the intuition. Do not get in that car.
So cute. Hell yeah.
I think I would be Luke because I would like to be handsome for a little bit.
A little bit. I feel it. I do like Luke's character. I really liked his character. Even growing up, like even though he had that stigma around him, I liked him as a.
I did too. It made me so sad that the adults around him didn't give him the support he needed to be a better person. It makes me sad.
I know, you would think they would like be a little bit more understanding, but heathen, whatever,
I know.
God.
They're like, get out of here, kid. You're just a troublemaker.
You're worthless. You're going nowhere in life. Ew.
For all the kids out there who have been told to go away because you're just a troublemaker, just know that you are worthy.
Absolutely. Your life is important, and you are.
Your ideas are good. And
and do good.
To let the way people treat you dictate who you are.
Exactly. You are not a product of them. Okay. Are you ready?
Are we ready to move on to the click?
I guess so. This is going to be a wild ride. Like most of the games that we've done recently have been. So, this week's click is Resident Evil Village.
Oh my god.
And it came out this year. It came out, let's see.
A few months ago, right?
Yeah, it was like May 7th, 2021.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a survival horror game. It aired for the PlayStation 5, but it is on Windows, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series. And it's actually made by Capcom. And if you're familiar with Capcom, they don't make the best games. But the Resident Evil series is very well known.
Is their like thing. That's like the only thing they're good at.
Yeah, they make a few fighting games, but like this is what stands out. This game is held to a high standard by a lot of people, and rightfully so. But I do have to say, I have not played this game. I have watched many people play it. I just have not delved on my own.
Well, how fun.
I know.
Because neither have I.
And that being said, there's a lot of backstory too. I'll touch briefly on that and then get into the story. So Resident Evil Village is a sequel to Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. And Biohazard was a game that consisted of people who were infected by what's called the mold. Just a virus. Nasty.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nasty. And that's it of Resident Evil 7, because we'll get a little bit into that later, but
so that's what that's about.
Yeah.
COVID.
2020, that's it. So Resident Evil 7 starts with a storybook. It's narrated and animated in like a fairy tale, almost Coraline kind of like animation. And the storybook basically tells you about a fairy tale of a little girl getting too far from her mother and, is greeted by 4, count them, 4 creepy, like foreshadowy kind of bad guys, right? But really neat, really off the wall of what Resident Evil does. And so after that narration, it flashes to current time, and it's of a girl named Mia, and she's holding her 6-month-old daughter, reading the fairy tale book to her, the creepy fairy tale of this girl getting lost. And then Ethan sits back. Ethan is the father and the protagonist of the story. Ethan sits back and he's like, why are you reading this creepy ass story to our 6-month-old child who's sleeping? And she's like, it's a local fairy tale. It's super weird. She's super creepy. Yeah. And like, sure, yeah, like don't question the parents, but like, that shit's creepy. And she was like responding really weird. So I was super off put by this beginning scene. And, so also to give a little bit of context back to Resident Evil 7, the mold is a virus that is infecting people. Well, Mia was infected with the mold when Ethan had found her back in 7. And Ethan made a cure for her, and she seemed to be doing well, so they moved on, basically. And that's when Village comes in. That's 3 years later that they're in this house, and they have a baby, and they're living in this, like, Eastern European town, kind of on a witness protection program, if you will.
Okay.
By their friend Chris, who's a really important character in the story. But yeah, Chris had sent them away. Go make a life for yourself. And Mia used to work for an organization that they're trying to protect them from. So that's why they're on that protection program currently.
Got it.
So that aside, Mia ends up putting Rosemary is the baby's name, putting Rose down for bed. And they go downstairs. They're kind of having a wine night together, but they're kind of talking about serious shit. And then all of a sudden, Mia gets shot in the right shoulder. Like literally just like went pew. And she looks at the window and she's like, wouldn't you be in agonizing pain? Like that, like to me, I was really upset.
I think that it depends on... I think
Shock?
I would be in shock first. And if they're drinking,
True.
alcohol will slow down feeling that pain too, I guess.
Very true.
It
was just off
Do you
putting.
remember? You know what this reminds me of is that part in The Office where Erin is talking about how Gabe always makes her watch horror movies, and she's all, I do like the beginnings though, where they have a perfect family and everyone's happy.
I don't like Erin's character that much, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Genius.
Oh my gosh.
It's really sad, and poor Rosemary has such a huge part in this story. It's insane.
Poor baby.
But yeah, I mean,
poor little baby.
Poor little baby. But Mia seems so off. You're so like off put by her presence for some weird reason. But yeah, she gets shot, and then all hell breaks loose. Yeah. And you're like, okay. You're like, okay. And then, Ethan yells, hey, get down. She gets down, or starts to, and then is just impaled by bullets, just like a mirage of them. Barrage, I mean. Yeah. And so she falls to the ground.
A mirage of bullets.
A mirage of bullets. She didn't see it coming.
She didn't see it.
And all the while, just keep in mind, this is first person view from Ethan. So you're seeing it through his eyes, basically. And so he crouches down underneath the table and sees Chris, his old friend, with a gun. Right? The fucking asshole. And then he just looks at him, takes the gun, and kills Mia. Just like pow, 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 like multiple shots.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, by the way, let me kill her really quick. That was horrible. So Chris ends up grabbing Rosemary, grabbing the baby, and then taking Chris hostage. And they go into this van, and Ethan wakes up after being knocked out by them. And the van is tipped over. There's dead bodies from the soldiers, like the guards from Chris's like band that he had. And Ethan wakes up and he's like, what the fuck is going on?
Something else attacked them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof.
And Chris and the baby are nowhere to be found. So he's like, what the fuck?
Oh no, his baby.
Yeah. His baby. And so obviously in search of his baby, he gets up and starts walking around the village trying to get more information and clues. And
hence the name Village.
You would think, like, honestly, take a tick counter of how many times I say village, because it's gonna get crazy.
Should that be a game? Take shots every time you say village.
It is Halloween after all. It's Halloween week. Take some shots. So Ethan now kind of bewildered. He starts looking around the town. And it's all in snow, mind you. It's cold. It's in the woods. And so he's coming across a few houses here and there that are just creepy and overrun with like nasty, gross experiments, if you want to call them that. And he ends up getting in a scuffle with one, and one like bites his hand, like takes off like 2 of his fingers. And at first, I was like, why the fuck did this guy just get bit by his, like, on his hand? He wraps it up and then just takes, like, liquid antibiotic solution, just dumps it on his hand and keeps moving. And I was like, this game, the logic, dude, it's so stupid. So I'm very off put by the beginning
Didn't that
of this
happen
game.
to Jamie Lannister? Didn't he lose a hand?
Oh, he lost a hand.
Hold on a second.
This is sounding very familiar.
Hold on a second. Other people in stories have lost hands before.
Very incestual. Is that the right word? I'm just gonna stop. I don't know. I don't know.
We're off topic now.
Yeah. But as Ethan's like roaming around the village getting that intel, he finds that a lot of these houses have like shrines to this lady called Lady Miranda. Mother Miranda. Yeah. Okay. It's weird. They're all worshiping this lady and you're like, what the fuck? Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, strange. And then he's trudging on and he finds this kooky old lady who's like, oh my God, you're... You might be onto something. But she's like, oh my God, you're the baby's father. And he's like, my daughter, Rose. And she's like, Rose, oh. I love this old lady. Like, she's creepy, but I love her. And so you get that tidbit of like, okay, well, somebody knows about my daughter. This is weird. And she ends up ditching it, and he keeps moving forward. And then he gets captured by a guy named Heisenberg. And he's in a trench coat. He looks kind of badass. He's kind of like steampunky, if you will.
Okay.
So you're introduced, so you're introduced to Heisenberg, and then you're introduced to Lady Dimitrescu. And this lady is the famous lady that's been going around the internet with the big mommy milkers, and she's a vampire. A lot of people want her to step on them, you know. That's the lady. She's like a 7-foot tall vampire lady, yeah.
That's the stepping lady.
And mind you, she's got this like English accent, like British accent, I should say, and she's just mwah. Love it. Mama. So yeah, mama.
Let me be the baby.
Give me the baby. Because Heisenberg captured Ethan, he brings Ethan to kind of this dingy hall where Dimitrescu and Heisenberg are standing side by side, and Mother Miranda is right in the middle. And they're trying to decide what's going to happen to Ethan. And Heisenberg and Dimitrescu are like fighting, like, ooh, I'll take care of him. I know what to do with him. But Dimitrescu, a vampire lady, so she wants him for his blood. And Heisenberg kind of wants him for his own, like, faction. Like, he has his own plans. And
Ethan's all, can I request death by snoo snoo?
Death by snoo. Honestly. That's amazing. And I guess somehow Ethan gets away from the meeting, and he ends up running into Lady Dimitrescu's castle. He just sees this giant structure, goes into it, gets trapped, and then gets chained up by Lady Dimitrescu.
Fucking hot.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I know, right? And so he gets chained up through the hands, like it's bloody, it's gross. And you're introduced to Lady Dimitrescu's like 3 daughters. And they're also like this blood-sucking out for all the blood in the world, kind of like henchmen.
But, just little like carbon copies of their mama.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, yeah. But they've got flies around them. They're kind of gross in that kind of way. Yeah, the nasty.
Well, some people like them a little dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Just some little like... Never mind. I was going to say something stupid. Never mind.
Just a little extra pheromones.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Ami for the save. So he ends up yanking his hands out of the chains, and he explores the castle, and he finds this creepy experimental sex dungeon kind of thing where these men had come to basically be experimented on. Wink, wink, nudge. And
say no more.
Say no more. And time goes by. He escapes her castle, Dimitrescu's castle. He stabs Dimitrescu on the way out with this like special sword, or like what'd you call that? Knife. Let's call it a knife.
Merlin's talisman.
And he stabs her, revealing her true form. She's like this demon flying thing. She's nasty, ugly.
Oof.
Yeah, but yeah. I honestly, if you want to call me Lady Dimitrescu, right around the corner. So
anyway,
after he leaves and has exposed her, he ends up finding a pedestal that you have to put 4 containers in. And these 4 containers are the answer to getting his daughter back. So,
hence
so
there's 4 monsters in the movie, or in the beginning of the book, in the book.
Ding, ding, ding. There's the 4 quests you have to go on. There's 4 lords of the village. So it's Lady Dimitrescu, Heisenberg, and then I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like Beneviento or something like that, and then Moreau. So you got to go on those hunts and destroy them, if you will, to find his daughter. And after he does that, after he figures that puzzle out, he goes to the traveling merchant in the game, who's pretty notorious, and the traveling merchant is like, you have your daughter in your hands. And Ethan's holding one of the flasks that he's supposed to put in that pedestal. And he's like, literally, like, your daughter's head's in there. And he wipes off some of the grime and it says head. Oh, like, I'm getting choked up thinking about it. 'Cause like, it's
like
gross.
They cut the baby.
Yeah.
The little baby.
The little baby. And Miranda
That's
has
really
everything
sad.
to do with it. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. But
So the baby's dead.
In 4 parts, yeah. I know. Don't cry, because I'm gonna cry.
I'm gonna die.
I know.
Oh my God,
I
that's
know.
so sad. Okay, let's move
It's-
on. Let's not talk about it. Let's move on.
Yeah. So he realizes that now he has to get all 4 of those flasks and instill in hopes of getting his daughter back to life. And let's see. So he comes in contact with Heisenberg again, and Heisenberg's like, oh my God, let's go against Lady Mother Miranda. And I want my humanity back. She's literally destroyed my life and made me a puppet of her own. And he said, let's use Rose's remains to destroy Mother Miranda. And Ethan's like, nah, man, I want my daughter back. Like, you could fuck off. And there's this whole scene, and Heisenberg throws him down his like little part of the village. So he goes way deep down into like this ravine kind of thing. Yeah. And then while Ethan's down there and he's disoriented, guess who the fuck shows up? It's his old friend Chris. And he's like, you fucking, yeah, you shot my fucking wife, man. And he was like, Chris is like, I know, but it wasn't Mia. It wasn't really Mia. It was Mother Miranda. And so you're like, I get it. She was fucking weird in the beginning. It was Mother Miranda.
I knew it.
I get it.
I knew she was sus.
She is sus as fuck, dude. And so he's basically saying like, Mia didn't actually die. Mother Miranda had run the truck over. So she was the one to tip their van over and take Chris and Rose.
Oh, when they see, now Chris could have just been like, shoot, that's not your wife. Shoot. Instead he was like, shoot, hey, watch me kill your wife. Shoot.
Right? And then let me kiss your baby and not tell you anything. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Suspenseful as shit.
I've never made a successful video game, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know how to tell them how to do their jobs. But
I mean, I was super off put at the beginning of this game when I was watching it for the first time. I was like, no way, this is bullshit. But it gets better. It does.
Okay.
So, he even tells Ethan, like, hey, I was trying to keep this from you. So you wouldn't blow our cover kind of thing. And Chris and Ethan get up and they go and fight Heisenberg and they destroy him, which is miraculous. And while they're fighting Heisenberg, Mother Miranda shows up. And to give you emphasis, she's just this like very elegant woman who has these beautiful black wings, and she's got a brilliant face cover too. And she just shows up in her beautiful feather, like, winged outfit. And she reveals all the human forms that she took to trick Ethan. So the kooky old lady, Mia, and blows his mind, basically, as like a big fuck you. Yeah.
I knew that old lady was Mother Miranda.
Right.
I knew it.
Right. And all the while she's explaining, basically foiling or telling him her plan, she rips his heart out. She rips Ethan's heart out and kills him. Yeah.
No mercy.
No mercy whatsoever.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then, so Ethan's now dead. And
You're all the
Chris
end.
and his... Right? Bye.
And
that's what I thought. I thought it was the end. I was like, all right. And then Chris and his team return back to the village to figure out what the hell happened, because he ended up getting a photograph of Ethan's dead body. So
where, how did he get a photograph of it?
I don't quite know.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's like details I skipped over that, like, you know.
Yeah, okay.
Too
not
long,
important.
but right.
He gets a picture, not important.
So yeah, Chris returns back to the village because there's this nasty parasite under the village that is continuing to fester and cause issues.
Does it have anything to do with the mold?
Yes, it has a lot to do with Mother Miranda and why the people in the village are all gross and like zombie-like. And why the four lords were all gross and why Dimitrescu was like this nasty flying demon thing. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And so Chris locates it, plants a bomb on that nasty parasite and blows it all to smithereens. And then he goes to Miranda's lab where all of her experiments and research are sitting. And he kind of gets a deep dive into what the fuck she's been doing this whole time. So he finds out basically Miranda had a plan to use Rose, okay, the 6-month-old baby, to resurrect her own daughter that she lost more than 100 years ago to the Spanish flu. So this bitch has been alive for a very long time.
Wow. Like Edward Cullen.
Like
Didn't Edward Cullen have the Spanish flu? Isn't that?
He did. Spanish flu. Oh shit.
Wow.
Full circle here.
Full circle.
So the whole reason why Chris was trying to keep a lot of information from Ethan was because Rose was born with the mold in her blood because Mia was infected. Mia was infected in the last game. Okay. So, but Mia seemed relatively normal. She seemed like a healthy baby. So they didn't really push it. And knowing that information that she was part of the mold infection, Miranda was like, yes, give me her. I need her for my experiments. And while Chris is down in her lab, he ends up finding the real Mia. She's locked up. She's been locked up this whole time.
But like since, like how long has she been locked up? Are they married?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Are they married?
Like, does she know anything? Like,
oh, seriously, dude. Oh, God.
Like, how long? Because there's a certain point, right? Where it's
there are plot
holes.
holes. Yeah, there are plot holes where I'm like, I need answers, and I'll find them later for sure.
Okay.
But
okay.
at
At what point was she kidnapped? Is the baby actually hers?
Right. How did Ethan get the baby? Anyway. Oh goodness. Hi, babe. So anyway,
Cameo.
Chris finds the actual Mia and is basically getting information from Mia, and Mia's like, I have a secret. And she's like, and Chris is like, what? And Ethan has a revelation that Mia didn't actually die in 7 or get per se, like, yeah, give or take. But Ethan got it. And Ethan has been infected this whole time, but his body has been reacting because he found the cure. So his body's been reacting to it differently. And so he actually died 3 years ago in Resident Evil 7. Okay. But the mold kept him alive. The grossness kept him alive.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's the mold controlling his body?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Does he have brain? Like...
Does he have matter? What's his intelligence score? Like,
is he conscious? Like,
yeah, he's conscious. He's definitely aware of his memories and his body and all of that. But it's just not a living Ethan. It's just a dying Ethan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he died, but he was kind of like resurrected because of the mold. So he's still the same person in body. It's just he's dying because of the mold. Yeah, okay. It's strange. It's all prior game stuff that probably doesn't help.
He's dying.
Yeah.
I get it.
He's withering away.
I totally get it.
I appreciate you sticking with me. So after he has this revelation of like, oh my God, I actually died 3 years ago and I'm approaching the actual end of my life because of the mold, then he realizes that I wanted to mention that's why he could just walk around with no fingers, because the mold was helping him just repair it. But
okay, because there's no like feeling. It just is kind of like a zombie-ish walking around.
Mm-hmm. So, after the revelation, Ethan goes to kill Miranda. He realizes, like, I still need to find Rose, and I still need to finish this thing so Rose can live on. And he kills Miranda miraculously, and when her body crumples to the ground, out pops Rose. This little baby. Out of the ash that was Miranda.
Like a phoenix rising through the ashes, the baby came back to life.
Yes. Yeah, she's just sitting there, and then Ethan picks her up and is like, oh my God. And you're so like overcome with joy at that point, because prior to this, like a lot of his expeditions, there were bad guys that were making baby sounds, and it was horrendous. It is like torture at that point. So it's really good to see Rose. So and then, but he's starting to wither away. He's starting, like, his hands are starting to crumple and turn black. So it's clear it's ending soon. And so he ends up meeting up with Chris again with Rose. And then in that midst of realizing that he's almost dead, the parasite that's under the village, it still isn't all the way dead. So Ethan realizes, well, I'm almost dead, so I'm gonna go like kamikaze myself real quick. And he goes inside and kills the rest of the mold while Chris takes Rose and moves on.
But what about Mia?
Mia is rescued by Chris. So while Ethan's having that revelation of like, oh, I'm dying, like Chris and Mia end up getting out safely, and they
that's crazy.
They
get together.
Get to safety. Mm-hmm. Oh God, no, I don't think so. But
I will imagine he starts the game by like killing her lookalike, and then ends the game by like killing her husband and sitting with her.
He's like, yes, I completed it. Yeah. So, so yeah, once Ethan goes back into the mold and kills himself, Chris takes Rose back to Mia. Mia's overjoyed and happy. And then Mia's like, wait, where's Ethan? And Chris is like, well, kind of like killed himself.
About
Mia's
that.
Like, yeah, and Mia's like super upset. And just like distraught about the whole thing. So that's pretty much the end of the game. You get a little ending scene with Rose as a teenager, being raised with Chris's mentality, like kind of living out Ethan's wishes for Rose. And she goes to her father's grave, and it's really sad. She puts like flowers down. And you get a glimpse of Rose realizing the power that she actually has, because she does have the power of the mold in her. And so you're kind of like waiting for the next game, because that's probably what it's going to be about, is Rose and her infection, or her powers, I guess.
Wow, that sounds like exciting.
Yeah,
for the future.
Was in the future. I hated the thought of this game in the beginning when I was watching people play it. And then it grew on me. Then it really grew on me. And I was like, okay, this is a really in-depth game that needs to answer some questions for me, but like, it's good. So I think ultimately I'd have to give it a 6 out of 10 clicks.
Okay.
Because I don't do scary. I would never be able to play this game. It's too scary for me. I can barely play Phasmophobia. I can barely play Luigi's Mansion. Like, come on now. So
I can barely play Clue. It is so scary.
It's true. I get really scared.
I'm the same way. Why do you think I picked Halloweentown for the movie and not an actual scary movie?
Agreed.
Believe me, it'll be a rare day that this podcast covers actual horror movies.
Fair. I'm okay with this.
I don't like being scared.
So, overall, good game. I rated a 6 because I will never play it. Good story, though, I think.
I would rate it a 3. Because I don't like horror games anyway. Fair. And I've never played it, so I have no reason to like it or to give it a higher score.
Oh, that's fair.
I feel
honestly.
like no, it's so funny. I give it a 3 because my rating means nothing to this game.
It means something to me. I'll say it until I die.
The game? This game?
No, your opinion.
Oh. I just feel like I just don't like scary games, so I'm not. Yeah. I just never play them, and especially stuff like this. I don't like fighting, like shooter games, and I don't like.
Yeah.
Like
don't touch this game. Yeah.
So this was just not for me, you guys. It's just not for me.
Fair.
It's not for me. It's just a 3.
Good rating. Doo-ba-ba-doody. And that pretty much concludes this episode. If you liked what you heard, if you like what you saw, email us at clickandflickpodcast@gmail.com.
Click and flick podcast. No ampersand in the email, but there is an ampersand. Wait, is there? And an ampersand in anything else?
Yes, there is.
When you search us up on anywhere you're listening to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, anywhere you're listening. YouTube. Click and Flick does have an ampersand, just not in our email. And if you're looking for our social medias, we're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Yes. Very riveting content over there. Take a look.
Let us know what you want us to cover, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side. Have a happy and safe Halloween.
Yeah. Peace out, bros.
Peace and love.
Sisters. and all my other siblings.
Yes. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.